You know that person who questions every single detail, who cannot move forward without seeing the proof, the data? This isn't a superpower, it's a symptom. Hey there, I'm Michna, and as an automotive engineer, I spent my entire career surrounded by people driven by this one single symptom, myself included. In this video, I want to show you exactly how this hidden question, am I competent, defines everything for a thinker. First, I want to break down how it creates their biggest strengths using a story of my own projects. And then I will try to show you how precisely this can lead to the most predictable blind spots for a thinker. And finally, I'll explain to you the two psychological needs. And if you get them, I guarantee you, you will change how you see yourself and especially the thinkers in your life. So here how this actually works. In the process communication model, every personality type has a primary way of experiencing the world. It's something called the perception. And for the thinker, the perception is thoughts. And your brain is wired to filter reality through data and logic. And I think this is also why you're often seen as responsible or organized. But this goes way deeper than just a list of traits. If you get a vague goal, your mind just stalls. It's like asking a calculator, how do you feel about the right answer? It needs number, it needs a framework, and it needs a plan. And I had this exact experience last year. I was tasked with preparing a proposal for a new ECU for my department, but I was getting almost zero specific instructions from my senior managers. The targets kept changing. One day one feature was critical, the next day it was out. It started to get incredibly confusing, and I remember thinking that at this point it's pointless to even try, because what was the point, since they would tell me in a couple of days that was not good anyway. So I finally get to a group meeting to try to present my initial analysis, and I remember on the first slide, even before I actually start explaining the contest, one of the senior members of my team is jumping in with comments, questioning the whole approach, questioning the wording on the slides. But the most frustrating part was that those answers were hidden in the next slides of the presentation. They were there in the analysis that he hasn't even seen yet. That is the feeling right here that I want to focus on. It wasn't about being challenged. It was the feeling that my structure process, my way of thinking was being completely disregarded. And for a thinker, a chaotic process isn't just inefficient, it's a direct threat to the ability to do good work and to feel competent. But the reason that frustration cuts so deep isn't just about the messy workflow, it's because it connects directly to the question I mentioned before. Am I competent? And that brings you to the core of it all. That single question that keeps run 24/7 in the back of your head. Am I competent? Your entire identity is wrapped in your ability to understand, analyze, and execute tasks correctly. Just think about it. Why do you think you double check the technical specifications 3 times? It's not because you don't trust the source. It could be, but it's a competence check. Do I have all the correct information to do this job well? It's the same reason you hate being late, because being on time it's also a measure of competence. This is your superpower, but it's also your biggest vulnerability. Because if your sense of competence is threatened, like when a plan is chaotic or your data is ignored, you can go into a spiral. You start to overanalyze, hoard information, and control every little detail, which is when you unfortunately get stuck. So once you understand this hidden driver, you see how it connects to what PCM calls your core psychological needs. You have two, and they will explain everything. The first one is your need for time structure, and the second one, and this is what, believe me, most people get wrong, most managers, is recognition of your work. Not just fluffily praised, good job, applause in the middle of the canteen, everyone. This for you, will feel empty. You need specific recognition of work, something that validates your competencies. So if you're a manager and you know you have someone, a thinker in your team, say something like, the way you structure the data made this entire project clearer. That's gold. It's spot on. It's a direct answer to the am I competent question. But when you don't, when you're forced to work with vague instructions, rushed, and your work isn't even acknowledged, you go into distress. You start to over control things. You might even micromanage if you have a small team of your own. Take work from others, thinking, I'll do it better myself. It's like you start to feel like goddamn Thanos. You snap your fingers and you have to fix it all yourself. But relax, you don't have to. And this is the trap. You start to over control because you're convinced no one else is competent enough. But all this stress and frustration just feeds your deepest fear that if you can control everything, you aren't competent after all. So next time you feel the need to question everything or you're working with someone who does, remember what's going under the surface. It's not just about logic. I think it actually boils down to a search of validation driven by one of the most human questions there is. Am I good enough at what I'm doing? Understanding this doesn't just make you a better engineer or a better colleague, friend, manager. It helps you to be a little bit kinder to yourself. Now, knowing what drives a thinker is one thing. Knowing how to communicate with them, especially when things get stressful, it's a completely different game. That's exactly what we're going to break down in the next video. I will give you a practical guide on giving feedback and getting the best out of your thinkers in your life and also to understand yourself a little bit better. So if that sounds helpful, get subscribed so you don't miss it. Thanks a lot for watching and I'll see you into the next one.